Okay, so I've talked a lot about buying agencies, and for those of you who are interested in buying one, how do you actually go about evaluating one? So in another video, I'm definitely going to do a bit more of an over the shoulder thing where I'm actually going to look at some P&Ls and talk through them and hide the important details about the business. But for this one, just wanted to do at a high level. There's really a few things we look at every time we look at an agency. Now, for us, we're a strategic buyer, but we're also a financial buyer, which means we're not looking to come in and operate an agency ourselves. Yes, we'll hire someone, so technically it'll be on Folio operating it, but I'm not a buyer looking to come in and buy myself a job. I'm not going to say, you know what, the founder's going to leave, that's okay. I'm going to run the agency, I'm going to be the CEO. And some buyers out there are like that. So if that's you, some of these things don't apply and you're in kind of a better situation. For us, the first thing we're looking at is this agency large enough to support us hiring someone to come in and run it as the new CEO? If it is, number two is that cost accounted for in the P&L? Sometimes a founder will say, hey, this business makes 20k a month profit or 30k a month profit, but they're not taking a salary. So actually, maybe it only makes 20k a month or 10k a month once you've hired someone in. And so you have to think, okay, if that's the case, that's okay. Is there enough meat on the bone for the agency after I've hired that person? And if the real price is going to be, if the real earnings are only, say, 10k a month after I've hired someone, can I get this business for a price that reflects that? Or, am I going to be paying what I think is a good price, but then the effective price becomes a lot higher because, you kind of have to take a huge hit on the bottom line by hiring someone. The second thing we're thinking is kind of related to the founder, and it's what is the founder's, how important is the business to the founder? What is the founder's role? If the founder is going out, putting out a ton of content on LinkedIn, maybe doing a YouTube video like this, maybe they're doing a ton of stuff on Twitter, and that's generating loads of their sales, that could potentially be a problem, because how are you going to replace that once you buy the business and they step out? Now, it's okay if a founder is doing those activities, because I think a good agency should have those activities. But again, you need to account for the risk, how much of their business is simply because of that. And then if the founder's doing the sales calls, the founder's doing the client relationships, so essentially they just have a team doing all the work, like the fulfillment of the service, but the founder's doing everything else. That's a bit of a problem. You might want to try and retain the founder for a year or two until they've trained a replacement. Essentially, it's even better if they've already trained a replacement. Maybe they've got someone on their team doing all that social media content, or they're doing it in their name, but it's not their face or their video, so someone else could take over and essentially ghostwrite for them. So there are ways around it, but these are all the first questions we're asking. Next thing we're looking at is, okay, assuming those things are okay and we're interested to learn more, now we're going to be asking ourselves, what actually is the business here? Have you got 80%, 90% of the revenue just coming from one client, 50%? Is there a concentration risk? Is there one service that you're running which is not very profitable but is driving a ton of the revenue? What are your gross profit margins? If you're in like the sort of 50%, 40% gross profit range, that's pretty good. If you're in, say, 20%, that's a problem, but could also be an opportunity if you can see a way to increase the gross profit margins. So the idea is you want the profit margins to be high enough that the business can scale and can afford to hire people to come in and help run, like marketing, sales, and so on. If the profit margins are too low, you don't really have that room by the time you've got done paying everyone. So if they are low, we look at that as a risk, obviously. But it's also an opportunity, because if we can quickly identify why they're low, maybe the service takes too long to fulfill because it's really unorganized, the founders have got bad systems in place, then you might be able to come in and improve them, get the profit margins from, say, 20% to 30%, 30% to 40%. That's going to have a huge impact on your returns. If it's because they've overhired, they've hired way too many people or really expensive people for a service that you could do cheaper elsewhere, then it becomes a little bit more difficult because you don't really want to come in as a buyer, fire all those expensive people, replace them with cheaper people. Great, you've just improved your profit margins and you've killed the business in the process. So, this is where you have to kind of make judgment calls and ask yourself, do we know why the margins are bad? Do we have benchmarks? Can we, have we seen other businesses with similar businesses with higher margins that we can compare and really identify what can we do to get those margins bigger? And then, the other things you want to start looking at are the same that you would get with every acquisition. What's the competitive space like? How can this business grow? Can we, can we put prices up? Can we sell more things to the existing customers? Can we fulfill things faster? Can we pivot if the service that we're selling dies? All of these things which really would apply not just to agencies but to everything else. And that's kind of 90% of it. Growing an agency is really, can we scale this? Do we have the margins to scale this? Is the founder an issue? Can we ourselves run this business without the founder? Is there a way to keep the founder around? Are there ways we can grow it? Are there ways we can diversify it? And that's 80% of it. Then there's obviously going to be nuances. And as I mentioned, I will definitely do more videos later and I'll do walkthroughs. I also have a newsletter on folio.com/newsletter, or link below this video, that will allow me to do more long form breakdowns and share playbooks for you as well. Definitely recommend you sign up. It's free. And thanks for watching. See you in another video.